Welcome, everyone. Please rise for the pledge and remain standing for the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Almighty Father, we gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that's placed before us tonight, and always act in accordance with what's best for the community and our fellow citizens. And if I could, I'd just like you to please join me with a moment of silence for our former alderman in the 1st Ward, school board member, U.S. Army vet, and our friend Dennis Pajiak. So if you could just bow your heads, give him a moment of silence. He passed away on Friday the 15th. Amen. I call this meeting to order at 3/19/2019 at 6:33 p.m. Can I have roll call, please?
Alderman Braun.
Here.
Alderman Berube.
Here.
Alderman Pecoraro.
Here.
Alderman Tylek.
Here.
President Zilka.
Here.
Also present, Mayor Arthur Pappas, City Attorney Luke Brown.
At this point, Mayor, do you have any opening comments before we begin our meeting?
No, I'd just like to bring out the fact that we're all saddened by the passing of Dennis Pajiak. As you noticed when you came in, probably the flag is at half-mast in his memory and honor. I had the privilege, and it was a privilege, working with him for several years on the North Tonawanda School Board. And of course, he was also a councilman for 8 years.
Yes.
Here for the 1st Ward, as Eric mentioned. You wouldn't find a more loyal person to his country and to his community. And he will be sadly missed, not only for his extreme wisdom and his intelligence. He's the type of person that just seemed to know a lot about everything. And he would even watch TV shows and he'd answer the questions on those quiz shows like the contestants couldn't. And I always told him he should be on one of those shows because he could maybe win a lot of money or prizes or whatever. But he just enjoyed, and he'd smile and just go on answering more questions. He always threw some light humor into things when things were getting kind of serious. Always had a little quip to keep things on a positive note, and always respected and fought and for the common person, and was so loyal to this city that he definitely will be missed, and it was a privilege working with him. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. He was a very approachable gentleman. Before I got into politics, he always lent an ear. He wasn't my alderman at the time, but he always wanted to hear what people had to say and was very approachable. And that's how he was with the government. So he will be sadly missed, as the mayor had said. At this point, if anybody has any comments on the agenda items tonight, or just the agenda items only, please step forward, state your name and address at the mic. Thank you.
Here's how we want to stand.
Someone keeps moving.
Yeah, every week, I'm sorry.
I don't lie. I didn't want to start messing with it. Anyway. BJ Vandewater, 1098 Nash Road. The item on the agenda I'd like to address is item 2, the cell phone policy. You all know me. I've been coming to these meetings since I moved back to MT when I retired in 2015. I can't get to everyone. I try to get to about 20 or 25 a year. And I've observed a few things as I've come to these meetings, and people sitting in the chairs have changed over that 5-year period, but one thing I think you all have in common is you all care about the city. I mean, I know you all have different motivations and different things in your life, and you're at different points in your life, but you all care about the city, and I appreciate that. So, one of the other things I've noticed that happens in all those years is periodically at various meetings, one person up front will turn to another person up front and have a private conversation, or people will have reading material in front of them and they'll read it, or they'll have their iPad, because I know the city gives you guys iPads, and they'll be looking at it. And the recent complaint that I heard at the workshop, and I know I haven't read anything about it, I just heard it at the workshop last week, talks about people being distracted because of the cell phone. And I think the cell phone has nothing to do with it. I think that either you trust your leaders, which I do, my assumption has always been when you've had those conversations or you've looked at that reading material, is to help improve the flow of the meeting. And whether that happens to be a piece of paper like I have here in front of me, or it happens to be an iPad, or it happens to be a cell phone, or it just happens to be leaning to the person next to you to ask a question because you perhaps didn't hear something that was said, I don't think that that means you're distracted from what's going on. And I think the same thing applies to a cell phone. Now, what I understood from the complaint was the cell phone is a distraction. Well, if you're gonna do something about distractions, I would suggest it be a technology-free resolution. Because the cell phone is just another thing like a piece of paper, right? Whether you like cell phones or don't like cell phones, and to be honest, I'm old enough to know the day when there were no cell phones, so if you didn't want to answer the phone, you didn't have to answer the phone, right? That's what answering machines were for, to save you from conversations perhaps you didn't want to have. But I really don't think it's an issue of the technology, and I would like to suggest that if there's gonna be more conversations, that those conversations address what I understood was the root of the issue was people don't like our leaders being distracted during a meeting. And personally, I think that interpretation says more about whatever person is making this an issue than it says about our leaders who sit in front of us every week, invest a lot of their time, not only at the meetings, but in other areas and situations where they're trying to do something that they care about, which is our city. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on tonight's agenda and tonight's agenda only? Please step forward and state your name and address. Seeing that there's none, we'll roll the agenda.
Okay, on to approval of the minutes of the regular session on March 5th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Approval of the minutes of the special session March 12th, 2019.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
On to approve of publication, published 2/28/2019, number 1. Legal notice, bid proposals for the Tollner Tank Control Building Roof Replacement from the City Clerk Treasurer.
Make the motion to receive and file.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
On to communications from city officials. From the Office of the City Attorney regarding the parliamentary procedures for the City of North Tonawanda Common Council. Do you want me to just group them together?
No, we'll do them one at a time just so I can address it. I just want to give an update, because I was tasked at looking at the parliamentary procedures by the council a couple weeks ago. As I mentioned last time, I found an old set of common council procedure rules, which today we have not been able to determine whether it's been passed or not. I had the city historian look into it. He hasn't been able to find anything regarding that. So just looking at the whole picture and making sure we have something solid going forward, I just wanted to update the council on where we are and just ask, be able to carry this over to the next workshop. We can talk about it further and then have it on the agenda for the following week. Just because that did take some time. We haven't found anything, so now we'll have to address it as if, we'll assume it's been passed and probably have to repeal that or something along those lines, but that did take some time to look into, so I just did want to give an update on that.
One question I have was, is that that's not a charter thing, right? We're not altering the charter, it's just code.
No, you're not altering the charter, it's just the rules of procedure for the common council. So
Okay.
you
So we're
guys,
good.
you guys can amend and change that any way
Okay.
you want, any way you want.
Great.
Make the motion that we table this item.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Let's just do a roll call on that.
Alderman Braun,
Aye.
Alderman Berube,
Aye.
Alderman Pecoraro.
Aye.
Alderman Tylek.
Aye.
President Zilka.
Aye. Motion's carried, table.
Moving on again to, from the city attorney's office regarding the cell phone policy.
All right, so, again, I was tasked with looking into a cell phone policy. Initially, I was kind of on the same wavelength as Mr. Vanderwater regarding, it being a distraction. I was kind of on the fence about the whole thing, but as I researched it, turns out there's a potential for open meeting law violations, for text messaging and FOIL issues regarding retention of any, electronic communication, about city topics. So, I've requested an opinion from the, Committee on Open Government from New York State regarding those issues. I've had some dialogue back and forth. I'm waiting for them to answer another question. So again, I was just asking for more time to get answer to those, and I should be able to present that at the next workshop next week.
Thank you.
Luke, I do have a question about that. So what exactly is a violation of open,
So the original question was between a resident and a city official. The Committee on Open Government says there is not for that type of communication via text messaging. However, if there's a quorum of council members engaged in a conversation concurrently, that can be seen as an open meetings violation because then you're not discussing that in the open. So I'm looking for more clarifications on when that applies to text messaging. As far as the FOIL, so anything, any electronic communications, and this is from the Committee on Open Government, any electronic communications such as emails or text messages that involve city business, whether stored in government or a personal device, constitute records that fall within the coverage of FOIL. So now we're talking about a retainability issue. So if somebody's receiving electronic communications on their private device and somebody foils that, how does the city regulate that? Because I can take my cell phone home, I can wipe it, whereas a city iPad, they're not being wiped. So that's kind of, I'm looking for more clarification on those two issues because that seems extensive to be able to foil a personal device if it has electronic communications regarding city business.
so do we back up our information from the iPads? Because I don't think anything's stopping anyone from wiping their iPad or their personal phone or their city issued anything.
That I don't know. That would be a question for MVP. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So,
I think the big issue too is, it's not whether you're pro iPad or pro phone, that's not what this is. What it is we have a device for our protocol that we're supposed to be using, there's really no text messaging from your iTablet. I'm not picking out my,
No, that's not an accurate statement.
Okay.
Well,
But also, I think the idea was that we wanted to give Luke a little bit more time to research this,
Right.
which is why we're gonna let him research it further and discuss it later.
Yeah.
but I will say this so this is from the assistant director from the Committee on Open Government, and this is what she tells me. This is regarding my question about a resident texting a city official during the meeting. She says, in my opinion, there's nothing in the open meetings law that would prohibit that type of communication, but I would consider it bad manners. The city may wish to establish a policy prohibiting such activities as it doesn't necessarily reflect well and gives the appearance of favoritism. It may appear that board members are communicating with each other. So, like I said, it's something that kind of went in a different direction when I started researching it,
sure,
and I just need more time to look into it.
sounds fine.
One other question, Ty. So if there's 3 council people in a room behind closed doors, is that something that, is subject to be foiled? Are they not allowed to be? I mean, there's times, I don't know,
Well, verbal communications can't be foiled. They're only electronic
right?
communications, so email, text messages, things in writing. So there's no way to foil a verbal conversation. They're talking about electronic.
I think we're getting away from the
No,
topic.
well, but it's good, it is similar though, cause then, if there are three in a room, and how are you supposed to sort of monitor that,
I don't know,
right?
but how you
It's
can.
conduct during a meeting, yeah.
This is totally, we're getting away from the topic at hand here.
But I did just want to update
Yeah.
where we are on that.
Good.
and-
Luke's got a lot on his plate right now, we're giving him a lot of work, so I think it's better that he,
I can handle it.
Step it up.
I just think it's better that you take the time to do it correctly than rush to get it done.
Have some of that energy.
So, I'll make a motion to table that. We have a motion and a second, roll call please.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Alderman Braun.
Aye.
Alderman Berube.
Aye.
Alderman Pecoraro.
Aye.
Alderman Tyler.
Aye.
President Zilka.
Aye, motion tabled.
From the Office of the Clerk Treasurer regarding permission to remove 230 Oliver Street from the appointed interim foreclosure proceeding.
I'll make the motion that we remove it.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
From the Office of the Clerk Treasurer regarding approval of the the warrant for collection of city taxes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
From the Office of the Clerk Treasurer regarding approval of the city-owned property auction.
Make the motion?
I'll second it. We have a motion and a second, roll call please.
Alderman Braun.
Aye.
Alderman Berube.
Aye.
Alderman Pecoraro.
Aye.
Alderman Tyler.
Aye.
President Zilka.
Aye, motion is carried.
From the Superintendent of Water Wastewater regarding award of contract for project 2019-01, Toller Tank Control Building Roof Replacement. Did we already?
Yeah, Bill's here.
He's here.
Oh, Bill,
He's back there.
how you doing? You wanna say anything about it, or?
And it needs to be replaced,
Right.
right? Right, you know all about it.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion that Grove Roofing Services Incorporated be, recommended as base bid.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, can I have roll call please?
Alderman Braun.
Aye.
Alderman Berube.
Aye.
Alderman Pecoraro.
Aye.
Alderman Tyler.
Aye.
President Zilka.
Aye, motion carried.
From the Office of the Accountant regarding payment of the abstract of claims dated March 19, 2019.
Make the motion, we pay the abstract.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, can I have roll call please?
Alderman Braun.
Aye.
Alderman Berube.
Aye.
Alderman Pecoraro.
Aye.
Alderman Tyler.
Aye.
President Zilka.
Aye, motion is carried.
From the Office of the Accountant regarding approval of Lawley Services, Inc. as claims management and loss control services for the city of North Tonawanda.
Amanda, do you wanna talk about that? You probably don't, but we would love if you did, so. I know, right?
I
Just
hope
make
my
her
mic's
come up
not
here.
as loud as your guys, but,
I don't know what's
It'd be
going
really
on.
loud, I felt that way too.
this is the second piece. Back in December, we had a one-year extension on a TPA contract. We talked about extending that to get an appropriate, loss control services and claims management team in place for the city. It was a contract that hadn't been rebid for, I think, probably about 20 years. I had City Attorney Luke Brown and my personnel payroll specialist on that committee with me to decide who we were gonna select for that. For a couple years now, we've been talking about not having a formal workers' compensation program for the city. So this is kind of to move forward with that goal. Just getting our department heads the resources they need to have an adequate program in place. First phase of this, I'll be working with that consultant to kind of evaluate where we're at with the city and implement some strategies to get us moving in the right direction here. So we selected Lawley. That was unanimous across our committee. Their score was very high. They're, in our opinion, very talented, aggressive with their claims management, and they're heavily staffed, very talented team.
Thank you. So, I'll make a motion to approve Lawley Services.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, can I have roll call please?
Alderman Braun.
Aye.
Alderman Berube.
Aye.
Alderman Pecoraro.
Aye.
Alderman Tyler.
Aye.
President Zilka.
Aye, motion is carried.
Traffic safety regarding various traffic safety recommendations from their February meeting.
I'll make a motion to receive, file.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
From the Office of the Building Inspector regarding proposed changes to City Code Chapter 69 Plumbing, Section 69-1 and 69-2 and 69-3.
I'll make the motion that we approve the plumbing board and plumbing inspector, chapter 69, plumbing.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
Moving on to the monthly reports from the Senior Center, Clerk Treasurer, and Police Department.
Make the motion, we receive and file.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
On to communications from others, from Gravic Hose Company regarding approval to add Noble Core 575 Chestnut Street to the North Tonawanda Fire Roll.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
From Mark Ruby regarding permission to be reappointed as Commissioner of Deeds for the City of North Tonawanda.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, can I have roll call, please?
Alderman Braun.
Aye.
Alderman Ruby.
I'll abstain.
Alderman Pecoraro.
Aye.
Alderman Tylek.
Aye.
President Zilka.
Aye, motion carries.
From Tonawanda's United Veterans Council regarding permission to close the Renaissance Bridge Sunday, May 26, 2019 for their annual Memorial Day service.
I'll make the motion that we allow the closure of the Renaissance Bridge for this important day.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
From the Historic Preservation Committee regarding permission to apply for additional grant funds for the Lumber Baron District project.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
From Linda Prock regarding permission to be reappointed as a Commissioner of Deeds for the City of North Tonawanda.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
Mr. Parrish, I'd like to have a lead comment
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Regarding,
regarding lifting of the.
lifting of the
parking
parking ban, right?
Yes.
To a late communication from Alderman Pecoraro
Make a
regarding.
motion that we.
I'll make a motion to accept the late com.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, well, go ahead, Bob.
Okay, well, we've really looked at the weather, looked at the items involved and coordination with our Department of Public Works. It looks like we could lift the parking ban effective immediately, but with the caveat that if something happens, that residents use their best judgment, but from now on, they'll be lifted today on forward.
Yeah, we'll make sure the police will be notified.
You bet.
We have a motion to lift the parking ban. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Just a clarification on that, when we decided this, did you say immediately?
Immediately.
That's what I was just gonna ask that same question.
Yep.
So right
That's
now.
right.
Because I don't notify
You
the
bet.
police department.
Dan, that's less work for you back there then, right?
I appreciate that.
At this point, let's move on to any city business that anyone would like to discuss. Please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Come more often, so I don't have to speak as much. Anyway, I have, DJ Vandewater, 1098 Nash, run the clock, man. This may be long and I don't want to take up anybody's time. I have two things I'd like to bring up. The first has to do with
budget. I know we're working on getting the budget on time and the mayor's position speaking on time. And the only thing I remember at the public hearing, the mayor pointed out, quite rightly, that they can't do the budget for one person. We have 30,000 residents. I think we said at the time 15,000 registered voters. And my suggestion at that time was, okay, that's a large number of people. Let's do some kind of a formal, survey to figure out what it is that people want. And then after conversations, we realized that's not cheap. Okay. But I got this idea. I can't say it's mine. I don't know if Mark is here, but I got this because Mark apparently somehow was able to figure out how to put in to everybody's water bill that neat little thing about here's tips for your trash, which I thought was pretty cool. I still have it. I saved it so I could read it, but I've read it, but I saved it in case I need to refer to it. And I would just like to suggest that we do the same thing for the budget and give the people in the city a chance to come back and answer questions like, and you already know my position on this one, I'd rather have less taxes than more services, okay? And part of that is because of who I am, right? I use the library a lot, but that's not a city service. I don't go to the parks, a lot of people do. I've been blessed where I haven't needed to have the paramedics or the firemen or the police or any of those other city services. The ones I do use are the DPW, who do a great job, and the water. The number one service the city provides to its residents. I use it every day. So I would like to suggest, as an alternative, that we all put together some questions, and in the next water bill, send that out. Don't send a lot of questions, because then you got a lot of work trying to figure them out. Pick whatever you think the right questions are. I would personally say, I'd love to see us stop doing recycling, because it's a outflow of cash and not an inflow of cash. And I've been reading a lot in the papers, online, not on the newspapers, physical papers, and a lot of cities have stopped doing that because it's no longer, it costs more. And actually, some cities have started using that. I've read where they burn the trash in a way that they capture some of the energy and steam, but I mean, $35 a ton, it's got to be adding up. So, but anyways, I'll leave that up to you. But I thought it was a good idea, a relatively cost-free idea. It's not as scientific as somebody who has been trained in statistics would perhaps like, but at least it's input from more than just those of us who show up here at these meetings and the people that you're in contact with in your various constituencies. The second issue I'd like to bring up, and I mentioned to Attorney Brown that I would be bringing this up because I haven't heard back. A couple of months ago, we all learned, contrary to what we thought, that the Niagara County Board of Ethics will not accept our questions and make a judgment. And I worked with Luke to try and come up with an alternative, but it's been a couple of months, I haven't heard anything back, and if we're not going to be able to use them, I would strongly suggest that we have either an ombudsman type facility or some way where if a resident of the city would like to bring forward a complaint or an issue or whatever they think is the issue, that there is a way that can be formally handled without involving necessarily people on the council. I was always in favor, I've talked to a few of you about the ombudsman concept. Yeah. I think the ethics committee would just be a subset of the ombudsman concept, which is why I like that better. But I think we got to do something because we have learned, it seems to me we have learned that we cannot rely on Niagara County to address issues that may or may not, by the way, I have no idea if what I said in was an ethics issue. I just know that I didn't know the answer to that question. I wanted somebody who was trained in ethics to give me an answer to that question. So if we're not going to be able to take advantage of a shared service, which you all know I'm a huge fan of shared services, then I'd like to see us do something that would make it easier for the residents to address the city. Again, thank you for your time.
BJ, just to address the recycling issue, we've had conversations with Don Tim, who's the county representative for that, and there's going to be changes. So those are coming, and we appreciate the residents and the flexibility we're going to be asking of them to pursue a policy of recycling and waste.
And see, you all have all my suggestions on services that I think, like, part of it is because I live alone. I don't have 10 kids living in my house, right? So, which some people do. I mean, I don't have enough trash to put out every week, so, but the poor guys from the DPW, you gotta come by every week, rain, snow, shine, whatever it is, they have to come by and pick up the trash, and I would like to try and save them that burden if that was an option. You know, I don't golf, I can't forget to say that, I don't golf. And I wish we had raised the fees more, but I'm glad we did raise the fees, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Take care of you.
We didn't even need the clock.
Pardon me?
We didn't even need the timer. It was already 5 minutes.
I was under my 5 minutes. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, BJ.
I try all.
Anybody else looking to say anything for the good of the city on any city business, please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Big Mike, 196 South Middle Drive. I've been around for the last 58 years, going to different council meetings. There's never once been an issue with cell phones, iPads, or anything. Another thing I didn't like in the last couple of meetings, how Mr. Parrish has been getting bashed. Luke Brown, I think Luke Brown and Mr. Parrish, like the mayor said, both of them are doing a heck of a job in the city of North Tonawanda. And I would like to see tonight, if it could be done, workshop meetings and council meetings from now on, if Luke Brown could pass it. No more having either one of them at a workshop meeting or a council meeting, and I think everything would run like a pussycat. And I want everybody to have a fine evening.
Thank you. Anybody else looking to speak on any city business for the good of the city, please step forward. Anybody else? All right, we'll go on to closing comments, starting with Alderman Austin Tyler.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Just a couple points. BJ, I do agree that we need to look at an ethics committee. A while ago, I did suggest something, and I'm glad it's coming sort of full circle now that we realize the county isn't responsible for our ethical issues within North Tonawanda. Not really implying that we have any, but, you know. And, you know, I'm excited that we're expanding that lumber Baron district. I think Chris and I are the Sweeney Estate, right, we've changed it, so the wording in here is a little different. But that's exciting, so it's just more opportunity for people in that region, if everyone doesn't know, to go after some tax credits if they want to keep some of that historic preservation to their home, really, right? There you go. And BJ also thought the idea of putting out some sort of survey and, you know, water bills and what have you, just these sort of annual or quarterly bills that we send out, I think it's a good idea, kind of feeds two birds. But other than that, thank you everyone for coming.
All right, Alderman Bob Vicararo.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'd also like to welcome everybody to the meeting this evening. Big priorities with me have been service to residents. And as you know, we have a bi-monthly Claro service, Western New York legal centers here from 10 to 12 up in the conference room if people have legal issues and they don't know how to resolve them. We have attorneys here to help the residents with those issues. And we had one session today, it was very successful. And then of course our Hub for Services is tomorrow from 10 to 12. These Hub for Services with an emphasis on financial planning is tomorrow at Redeemer Lutheran Church. And then starting at 1 o'clock, we're gonna do tax preparation with Dr. Ian Burke from Niagara University and some of his students. We asked for reservations. If you didn't make a reservation, come anyways, we'll try to fit you in. If we can't fit you in, we'll schedule an appointment with a appropriate tax representative to help you with your taxes. So even though you may not have had a reservation, come tomorrow and it starts at 1 o'clock for taxes, and we'll get you an appointment. If we can't see you tomorrow, we'll see you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Alderman Mark Berube.
Nothing at this point.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Donna Braun.
Thank you. I just want to talk about everybody being a little patient once the weather has broke. I already started driving my second ward to check out our roads and streets, and this was a horrendous winter. I talked to Mark Zellner last night, who was at our Oliver Street merchants meeting, and, he is doing the same, assessing the roads and streets, so everybody be patient. I know there's a lot of potholes out there, and I know our DPW has taken good care of us in the past, and I'm sure that they will do the same. Along with, being at the Oliver Street, meeting last night, I know with spring coming up, I'm not sure when the mayor's cleanup is. Is that coming up? When is it?
April, but
April, we're
I'm
not
not
sure.
sure of the date.
All right,
April
well, there'll
11th.
be a lot of cleanups coming up, and I hope that, we can spread the word and everybody can participate. There's the Botanical Gardens, there's the Webster Street Project Pride is coming up, and Oliver Street cleanup. There was a suggestion, and I might wanna put this out to all the councilmen up here. There was a suggestion to do possibly a citywide pride cleanup your neighborhood day. So I'm looking for suggestions and ideas. They thought it was a great idea. So I think that might be good, because somebody said at the last meeting that we are an old city with historic neighborhoods, and people used to go out in the street and clean up their own, the stones, and they took pride in their neighborhoods, and that's what came up last night on this whole conversation. So we might wanna think about doing a citywide, once all the individual cleanups
I think they're
are
already
done.
scheduled in the Botanical Garden
Yeah,
and
they
the Oliver
are.
Street and the Webster Street
Yeah,
downtown
but
merchants
we're talking
are
about,
all the same time
yeah,
and day.
right, and we need to
Yeah.
kinda coordinate that a little bit better.
You bet.
Yeah, and I think that's all I have tonight. I am, pleased that we can actually, end early today so I can go pay my respects to, Mr. Pizak. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. City Attorney Luke Brown.
I don't have anything else for tonight.
All right. City Clerk Treasurer Matt Parrish.
Yes, really quickly, I would just like to say, because I think that we focus often on things that are maybe more negative or controversial, and I just wanted to give some recognition to somebody from my department who is doing a great job. Our dog control officer, Eric Salisbury, some of you may know him as Rick. Captain Karen Smith came to me with a letter basically of just recognition and gave it to me because he's doing such a great job. I'll just read the first paragraph, it's kind of long, but I'll just read the first paragraph really quickly. I'm writing this letter to recognize our dog control officer, Eric Salisbury. As you are aware, we had a previous dog control officer that was ineffective. I have been very impressed with the work of Salisbury since he started in August of last year. There is no doubt he is a perfect fit for the job. He loves dogs, is knowledgeable, and has gone above and beyond in his duties. He even adopted a stray dog that was too frail and scared to be placed in All Dogs Academy, and I know he also found the dog Franklin that was shared quite a bit on social media, and I think he got some mainstream media recognition as well. So I just wanted to recognize our dog control officer, Eric Salisbury, for doing a great job, and he works very closely with the police department, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Mayor Arthur Pappas.
No, I've said quite a bit already earlier in the meeting, but I'm glad, Matt, you brought that up because I had spoken to Mr. Salisbury to express how the city appreciates what he's been doing. He has gone above and beyond, and he found not just the one, but there were 2 lost dogs. And he was out there in the bitter cold when we had the 75-mile-an-hour winds and it was freezing, and he was out there helping the people search for their dog, and they found it.
Yeah, he really cares.
Yeah, he really does, and he deserves a lot of praise for what he's been doing. And thank you all for coming. Other than that, oh, by the way, Donna, there is a lady who contacted me just recently through email,
Okay.
looking for that type of committee or that type of thing for
Okay.
citywide, so I'll
All right.
share that with you.
Perfect.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight.
Thank you, Art. Lastly, I'm gonna keep it short. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for your comments. Anything you need to do, we pride ourselves on being approachable. We pride ourselves on taking suggestions. And we welcome people not only just to speak up at the meetings, but to contact their alderman, the mayor, any city official when it comes to any ideas or suggestions. And we look for common denominators. We look for people that are asking to see some of the same things, because these are things that we can act on and actually prioritize based on what we're hearing. With the recycling thing, it's something that we've been working on. I've talked to Mark Zellner, we've talked about it. You know, yes, it's getting costly to recycle, but do we not wanna be a green city? I don't know. I mean, it's something that we have to look at. Like Bob said, there are some things set into motion and things that we've talked to about with the county. And we're gonna keep proceeding with that and find out what we can do as a municipality and what's the responsible thing to do as a municipality for our environment, not just for the convenience of certain people or preferences. But it's a greater good of the city is what we always have to keep in mind up here. Suggestions are good, ideas are good. We wish we could implement all your ideas, but in some cases where it's not practical or it's not a broad spectrum thing, we can't always act on that. But we do appreciate you coming in. We do appreciate you attending the meetings. And like I said, take advantage of talking with your city officials when it comes to the budget, when it comes to suggestions. That's what we're here for. Other than that, I'm also going to adjourn now because we do want to go pay our respects for Dennis and to his family, and they're having some services. So we appreciate everything you guys do and what you have to say. And any questions after the meeting, we'll be here for a brief time. Other than that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
Any students that need their paper signed, come on up.
You want to call back for this?
Yeah.
All right.
But
I got time.
I can take someone over here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we just need one.
Yes, I only signed yours.
Yeah, I got one. I'm just making sure it's
You're only one.
Take care. Thank you for reading today. I know.
Like pockets, like Botanical Gardens or West Street out there. I'm talking about Thank you for that. And your name is? Eric. Okay, nice to meet you. And keep an eye out for anything that might happen. Okay.
Yeah, I really think that is a
All
great
right,
idea.
thanks.
I think that's a nice,
Don't touch the pool. We don't care if it's broken. To, if you do anything, it better be covered. Yeah. Okay, so.